Hi everyone, welcome back to Coffee Books and Rain, where I have the remains of coffee, although for this coming book I should have had tea. I have books and my reviews, and I have clouds that have potential rain in them. But, like I just mentioned, this next book probably does better with a cup of tea, and yet I'm sitting here drinking coffee. Now I do have a very big thing of water that is it's probably filled up to here right now, so I'm not going to tilt that too much. And I have my mask for when I am going to be Black Cat for Dragon Con later this month. I went to my mom's house and thought I left it there because I couldn't find it for the life of me. And I do this thing where it's like I think I put it in a good spot, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to remember that. I never do, and I lose it for like months. I I put it away, and then I hide it from myself for a while. I'm still looking for a couple documents that I thought I put in a good spot that I can't find. So that's also very fun. But let's dive into this book and not talk about me misplacing things. Alchemy and a Cup of Tea by Rebecca Thorne. Tomes and Tea, number 4. I do think this is going to be the last in the series, though there is potential that we could have more adventures with Reyna and Kianth. However, the way this one ends really does round out the series incredibly well. So let us just go ahead, dive straight into the summary, and we'll go from there. USA Today, Sunday Times, and indie best-selling author Rebecca Thorne brings Tomes and Teas series to a delightful, cozy close for our beloved lesbian book and tea sellers. Reyna and Kianth have no trouble ruling the queendom, battling evil alchemists, and rescuing adorable baby dragons. But can they save their town from the ravening influx of tourists? On the night of her kidnapping, all Reyna wanted was a relaxing cup of tea. She didn't expect to be dropped into a hidden cell. But what the hells? She's flexible. When Kianth rescues her wife, she expects they'll be back at New Leaf, having tea by noon. But there's a problem. An alchemy circle marred Reyna's cell. What does a radical group of alchemists want with the queendom's newest sovereign? And why did they think they could get away with this? To make matters worse, Kianth and Reyna's hometown is having its own problems. Word of New Leaf Tomes and Tea and its celebrity owners, has finally spread, and tourists are flooding into Tawny. As their friends struggle with the sudden influx, Kianth and Reyna have to face a bigger conundrum than rogue alchemists: the fact that closing their bookshop might be the only way to save their town. Things can't be that simple, can they? So, this book, so cute. I have loved this series from beginning to end. It has been one of the best cozy adventure series I have ever picked up. If you love Bookshops and Bone Dust, Legends and Lattes, and the upcoming Bread Knives and something in Bread Knives. Well, the next one by Travis Baldree, Brigands and Bread Knives, I think, by Travis Baldree, coming out later this year. You will love this series. This was about 230 pages in paperback. I had the physical, or I didn't have the physical book. I'm sorry, I had the ebook, but I also had an audiobook as well. And it is expected publication of August 12th, 2025. And so I'm going to try to release this episode on the day it is actually due. And so that is my goal, and we're going to aim for that, because I just think it is a really, really great, cute, cozy adventure. But we dive in first with Reyna pretty much being kidnapped. Now, at the end of book 3, Reyna had begrudgingly decided to be the next queen of the queendom. And she was just a queen's guard, as was her mother. And so she never, she's not in line for the queendom. However, she's doing pretty good. I would say it seems like her ratings are up. The queendom is doing pretty well. And So Raina and Keanth have settled down in Tawny. Now they just figure like they're going to take a little bit of an offhands approach to running the queendom. Raina will make a couple of monarchly sort of decisions should she have to, but otherwise she wants to kind of stay like kind of on the down low. She doesn't want to be queen, and so she hopes that in the future she can kind of continue to back away from that role and maybe eventually be like, okay, I abdicate the throne to no one and the queendom can run itself. But there is somebody else who is one of their friends who's like, you can't do that, because if anybody ever sees that there's not a queen, there's going to be a power vacuum. And Raina's like, are you serious? I don't want to have to do this forever. And he's kind of like, you're never really going to be able to give it up. It's going to probably be yours until the day you perish, and then someone else is going to have to pick it up. So she's begrudgingly having to come to terms with this. Well, Keanth is the Mage of Ages. She is the technically the most powerful mage in the queendom. So she is also a celebrity in her own right. When she goes to the Magicarium, or I think it's something like that, it's kind of like I would call the magical school, or the kind of like, it's kind of like their compound, their area. She is kind of the head honcho. Now, there is a person running the Magicarium, like the head of the Magicarium, but Keanth still supersedes them as well. The Stone of Seeing has chosen Keanth to be its conduit, and though other mages can use magic, Keanth can kind of use all the magic. And so she is, again, also very powerful. In this particular book, again, they are both trying to live a more casual life. They thought that most of the adventure was kind of behind them. They settled down in Tawny in order to hopefully just be together. At the end of book 3, they got married, so they're living their lives together in this cute little town. And now, one of their biggest concern is that this town is overrun with tourists, to the point that the city cannot function very well. They are unable to really corral or control these crowds that are coming in. And it is really starting to fray the nerves of the townsfolk who really don't want this kind of lifestyle. They were not planning to try to host this many people. There's one particular lady, and she runs like the local inn, and she's like, yeah, we're booked every night, which is great and all, except like sometimes we have to like physically kick people out because they won't leave. And then of course the New Leaf Tomes and Teas, their little shop, is constantly full to the point there's like a line out the door, and there are very rowdy, belligerent people who just don't want to leave even when it's closing time. And so all of these tourists are making it really kind of annoying to live here, because they don't seem to take into account that they are visitors, that they think they have like all this control and say, when the town really would be better off without them. And so Keanth and Raina are kind of coming to the understanding that a lot of people are coming here for them, to see them, because one is the Mage of Ages. I keep trying to turn that around. Mage of Ages, and the other is the Queen, and they just run a tea shop. So it's kind of like if a local celebrity was at the, let's just say, like, whatever a local food place is, like maybe like a chicken finger shop, okay? So maybe you've got Brad Pitt running a chicken finger shop down the street with, somebody else. And now everybody flocks to that particular chicken finger shop. And I say that because I was just really craving chicken fingers. So like, sure, it's kind of good for business, but honestly, it can also make a business go under if that business is not prepared for that level of influx and people trying to camp out and people just trying to catch a glimpse or get an autograph and all that sort of stuff. So it really is kind of grating on the nerves of the people of Tawny. Well, on top of all of that, um, while Raina was kidnapped, because it was kind of a misunderstanding, kind of not a misunderstanding, Raina found an alchemy circle in her holding cell. And it kind of made her concerned because alchemy is a little bit different than the magic that the mages use, in the fact that when a mage can no longer use the elemental powers, they are then kind of a what you could call a mortal, like someone who without magic. However, they can turn to alchemy, which potentially uses blood sacrifice, and have again magical ability. Now it does seem as though anybody who maybe a layperson could potentially become an alchemist just through a bit of training. But so that's why the Magicarium really tries to keep that knowledge under wraps so they don't have a lot of rogue alchemists running around doing blood sacrifices and trying to cause a bit of havoc. But that's what starts happening in this particular book, is that the Stone of Seeing starts to get affected and potentially drained of some power. There are random alchemy circles scattered around the Magicarium and other places, and they are trying to pinpoint who it is, who is doing this, and what is their ultimate end goal. Like, what is the purpose for these alchemical circles that seem to be draining circles of draining power or life force in some ways. Now, it is a very cute, cozy book, which I love. It does have a couple of kind of tense moments. And I do like the fact that the final, I would even call it the epilogue chapter, goes back to Serena and Bobby. We don't get them throughout this story, but the epilogue does kind of jump a little forward into the future just a bit. And we get a glimpse into the lives of Serena and Bobby, who we met in a couple of the previous books, who are also a really adorable couple who are they're not the same as, of course, Raina and Kian. Of course, every couple is going to be different on their own. Serena and Bobby have been together for, heck, years at this particular point, and they haven't gotten married. Serena is a little concerned because she kind of wants to almost tie Bobby down or have that sense of, like, solidity? Something. She wants to have that solidness. She wants to kind of tie Bobby down and be like, hey, look, you're mine. And she's not sure if Bobby would be up for that or if Bobby would be okay with being tied down like that. So there's a couple of tense moments in that final little epilogue chapter, which I think is just a really great way to show how couples can be so different from each other, but still be so very good for each other. I do think communication is incredibly important, and for some of these characters, they don't communicate potentially as well as they could. But I do see that they're a little hesitant. They're worried. They're worried about saying what's on their mind because they don't know how the other person is going to act or react in various cases. But I like this series so much. It is so cute. Again, so cozy. I drink coffee all day long. Now, that does not mean that I do not love a good cup of tea. I have an entire tea cabinet in there for usually while I'm reading before bed. Probably not the best time to drink coffee at that time, so a nice herbal tea is always a really great welcome. Now, you've got 4 books in this series. If you're looking for cozy fantasy with some romance, please pick it up. It is just whimsical. There are griffins, there are dragons, there are other cute characters involved. I don't know. It's just so hard for me to like pinpoint like my favorite thing because like I think it has so many good points. So many good points. But I will probably stop gushing. I probably should, just so you guys can go out and decide if you want to read this series. I think you should. I think it was wonderfully done. I will pick up more by this author. In fact, I'm going to click on her name. It says she's got 10 books. I'd be willing to bet 4 of them are this series. And so I think the first book is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. Then we've got the second one, A Pirate's Life for Tea. Number 3, Tea You at the Altar. And then we've got this one, Alchemy and a Cup of Tea. Of course, we have those references to tea because both Raina and Keanth have a love for tea. And I think Keanth a bit more than Raina, but they one loves books, one loves teas, so they have a cute little shop that works perfectly for them. I love the puns because they're constantly throwing out really dumb dad joke puns in all the best ways. And yes, I highly recommend. But I'm going to go ahead and leave it here. I'm going to let you guys go and decide if this is something that you want to read. But with all of that being said, I want to thank you so much for tuning in, for liking and subscribing. If you haven't already, I hope you will. One day, I am going to get my Patreon up and running. I was going to try to get it going in August, but I got busy. I really have a lot going on. I am changing jobs at work in the best ways, for good reasons and for a little bit more pay. I am debating on, I am working with a realtor to determine if I want to go ahead and buy a little condo or townhouse. And I have a couple other things going on. So not really related to this channel, just a couple other things going on. Sadly, still not dating anyone, but that is totally fine because my plate is kind of full right now in all the best of ways. But with all of that being said, thank you so much for joining me on this journey, and I will see you guys on the next page. I hope you have a great one.